third day of Chol Hamoed, and the fourth day of the Omer. And today is Bechoros Zayin. We're picking it up on Vav. Towards the bottom, we are 7 lines up. Ela. What we've been discussing is the Torah repeated Gamol Gamol. It means in Vayikra we said Gamol, and in Dvarim we said Gamol in the list of non-kosher animals. And the Rabbanan said that was to exclude the milk of a Gamol. Now, why would we think we could even drink camel's milk? It's because regular milk, all milk, is Eiver Min HaChai. It comes out of a live animal. So since the Torah taught us that this milk, even though it's Eiver Min HaChai, is mutter in consumption, we might think that applies to all milk, even from a camel. So we have Gamol Gamol, which includes even the milk. Rabbi Shimon learned from Es HaGamol, and we had the famous Gemara about being Dorish all the Isim, that the Et, or Es, is to include something else. And Rabbi Akiva said, Et l'rabot talmidei chachamim. So we've learned that the milk from Gemalim is not kosher, but other milk, even though you might have thought it's Eiver Min HaChai, is kosher. Now, we learned before that eggs are kosher. You remember why eggs are kosher? You remember the source? Eggs are kosher? Shkoyach, a little milk. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. This is in Yana Diyoma, a little bit of milk, and it's kosher. It's Eiver Min HaChai. Anyone remember why beitzim are kosher? I'll give you a hint. What's the last parak of Chulin? Wow. Shulach HaKan. Thank you. Thank you. I was getting worried. This was only like a week ago. Shulach HaKan. Beautiful. So if Shulach HaKan, it says what do you want out of the nest? The efrochim or the beitzim? So Rabbi said the Torah tells you specifically if you have a kosher bird, the eggs are also kosher. Efrochim or beitzim from Shulach HaKan. Beautiful. So we know that your milk and eggs are kosher. It's very helpful. So we are 7 lines up from the bottom of Vav Amud Beis 6b Ela Me'ata. So we repeated Gamol Gamol. Thank you very much. Sarah Mashkim is here. Chazak v'ruch. Baruch atah Adonai l'in machlam she'akol niyah b'dvaro. Wow. Kos Yeshua Sesam. So we repeated Gamol Gamol. Ela Me'ata Shafan Shafan. What about Shafan? Shafan is a sort of a bunny-like creature. Sorry, it's not a bunny-like creature. It's another non-kosher creature, but similar to that. Arnevet is the bunny rabbit. It's the word that was famously changed in the Septuagint. When the Torah was translated into Greek, the sages changed the word Arnevet into something else in Greek because in Greek it was the name of the wife of the emperor, and they didn't want to insult the wife of the emperor because that would be trouble. And Chazir is also repeated. That means all of these words appear in Vayikra. They also appear in Devarim along with Gamol. So, Lahanehu Da'atu, do these also get a drasha? So we had a whole drasha, Gamol Gamol, that the milk of a Gamol isn't kosher, even though milk in general is kosher, afal that it's Eiver Min HaChai. So what about these other animals that are repeated, these non-kosher animals? Elikidatanya. So why are they repeated? Like the Brisa tells us. Lama Nishnu Bivhema. Why did it repeat the not kosher behemoths in Vayikra and again in Devarim? Mibnei Has-Shesua. Shesua only appears in Devarim, not in Vayikra. Ofot mipnei ha'ra'ah. And for ofot, it adds the ra'ah. Now, actually, it says da'ah in the first list and ra'ah in the second list, and it seems that they're the same bird. The Mefarshim say they're called by different names in different places, or perhaps they were different subspecies of the same species. So they're both, don't eat them. Gamol Gamol nami lahachi hudato. So why don't we say Gamol Gamol? We're just repeating Gamol Gamol because we had to add or change the name for some of the list of animals between Vayikra and Devarim, so we know exactly which animals are not kosher, and which birds also. Kol hecha de'ika lemidrash darshinan. So rather, when we are able to make a nice drasha, we're going to make a nice drasha. It could also be that Gamol was the first one in the list. So the drasha really goes on the repetition in general. We've repeated the names of various non-kosher animals. We learn out that their milk is not kosher, even though we might have thought it's kosher, because we had this Eretz Zvat Chalav Udvash, that the chalav, even though we might have thought it's Eiver Min HaChai, chalav is actually kosher. And on Pesach, it's got to be kosher LePesach because you can't drink milk from an animal that was eating chametz on Pesach. So that would be a problem. That would be benefiting from chametz. So get your KFP milk at 7 Mile Market. This was not a paid promotion. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, Rochel Sheyalda Min Eis. We've seen this Gemara before, Bosai. What about a sheep that gave birth to a goat, or a goat gave birth to something like a sheep? Patura min a bechora. It is not count as a bechor. V'myesh ba miksa simanim, if it is some of the signs of the mother, it looks a bit like the mother, chayevet. It is chayev in bechor. Again, it would be a mum though. Rabbi Shimon Omer Aji Hey Rosho Verubo Domadima. Rabbi Shimon has a more stringent requirement. Rabbi Osai, to be a bechor, it has to be dome Rosho Verubo, the head and the majority. So you can tell, okay, so this animal that came out, it looks a little bit like a goat, but it looks mostly like a sheep. The head is like a sheep, so that's what Rabbi Shimon requires to be chayiv in bechor. Ibai lehu lechila mibai Rabbi Shimon Rosho Verubo. So we learned in our Mishnah, if a kosher animal gives birth to something that's a bit of a mutant, a bit of a nidmeh, and maybe it has the hooves of a camel, but it looks like a cow otherwise, does Rabbi Shimon, and the Mishnah says it's mutter because it came out of a kosher mother. Does Rabbi Shimon agree, or does Rabbi Shimon require Rosho Verubo? Like Rabbi Shimon requires Rosho Verubo for Bechor, maybe Rabbi Shimon requires Rosho and Rubo, most of the body and the head, to be kosher, even though it came out of a kosher mother, of course. Olo, maybe he doesn't require that. Linyan Bechor Kesiv, by the Bechor, it says Ach Bechor Shor, only the Bechor Shor. Ad Hu Shor, Bechor Shor. The mother has to be a shor, and the offspring has to be a shor. They both have to look like an ox, like a normal cow. Aval Achila, but for Achila, Gamal Hu de Amar Rachmana, by eating the gamal, the camel, is what the Torah excludes. The usr, that's usr to eat. Ha ishtane megamal, top of Zion, if it was changed from a gamal, shaper dami. So it wasn't exactly a gamal, but the cow gave birth to something that has gamal features, but also cow features. So since it came out of a kosher mother, we're going to say that's kosher to eat. Odil maloshna, or maybe for eating, Rabbi Shimon says it's like bechora, it would need rosha v'rubo. He needs a higher standard to be able to eat it, just like for bechor. Tashima, coming here from the Mishnah, behema tahora, shialda min behema tameya. Kosher animal gave birth to a non-kosher. That's our Mishnah, Rabbi Osai. Asur be'achila. V'im dame rosha v'rubo le'imo, chayav b'chora. If it's not our Mishnah, this is Rabbi Shimon's Baraisa on our Mishnah. So he would say that he needs Rosh V'rubo to eat it. Shema mina le'achila nami by Rabbi Shimon, Rosh V'rubo. So you see, for eating, he also needs it to look like the kosher mother in the Rosh V'rubo, the head and most of the body. Hello. So maybe this Baraisa doesn't mean that. It means lebechora davka. It mean's davka the bechora. Daikanami, and if you read this Baraisa carefully, you'll also see this. Shavka lechila v'kamle bechor, because the first clause in the Baraisa is about eating, and the second clause is about bechor. He just says asur bechila, period. V'im domi rosh v'ruba le'imo chayav bivchora. So he seems to say that it's asur to eat, period, because it looks like not kosher. It seems to be very machmir. But if it has rosh v'ruba, it is eligible to be a bechor. So shema mina the bechora hu devai Rabbi Shimon rosh v'ruba. So you learn from here Rabbi Shimon needs rosh v'ruba only by bechor. Aval achila lo, but maybe not by achila. Maybe it's a different standard by achila. So l'olam emelach. Really, I could tell you l'achila nami by. For eating the animal, Rabbi Shimon also requires you to have rosho v'rubo. It resembles the kosher mother. A bechora eats trich, and by bechor he really needs this. Because you would have thought to say hoil, since ksiv, the Torah says ach bechor shor, only the firstborn of the shor. Hu shor of Bechoro shor. So it sounds like by Bechora, it sounds like by the firstborn, we're more stringent because it has that word ach, which is a mute. It's like only, davka, like this. So only the Bechor of the shor would count for the halacha of being the Bechor, of being the firstborn. So we might have thought it's a higher standard. Lo tiske, it's not enough le, barosh of rubo. Maybe it's not enough for the offspring, the firstborn offspring, to have the rosh of a rubo. It needs ad ika kule. It needs to be resembling it entirely. So kamash malan. So we learn that Rabbi Shimon says it's good enough rosh of ruba. We might have thought it's more machmir. You need it to be exactly like the bechor shor. You need the bechor to be exactly like the shor. So Rabbi Shimon is teaching us, even if it's rosh of ruba, even if the head and most of it is like the shor, that's good enough. Good. Tashma, come see the Mishnah. Ach et zei lo tochlu. Only these don't eat mimale gera mimafasei parsa, from those who raise up their cud, they chew their cud again, and those with split hooves. So there's something that we don't eat out of those. So it goes on to tell you the gamal is the end of that pasuk. Zei iata ochel. So this one, the gamal, you can't eat. Avalata ochel haba b'siman echad. But you are sometimes able to eat an animal with one of the kosher simanim. Ve'ezeh, and which one is this? Haba b'siman echad, that's coming with one kosher siman. Ze tame hanolad min hatachor. So this is a non-kosher looking animal, but it came out of a kosher animal. So again, this is like the camel looking thing that came out of a cow. This is a cow that has camel's hooves or something like this, camel's toes. The iburo min tahor, but the father was also a kosher species. The father was a cow, and the mother was a cow, but the offspring was mutated. Yachol afilu iburo min tame. You might have thought even if the father, if this cow got pregnant from a tame, from an actual camel or a non-kosher animal, tam lomar se kesavim se izim. So it says se means the child, the offspring. So it says the se of the sheep, the se of the goats. Achye aviv kevis ve'imo kivsa. So we want it to be that the both the father and the mother are a sheep, and that's when it's eligible to be a bechor. Divrei Rabbi Yeshua. That's what Rabbi Yeshua says. He says you need both the father and the mother to be kosher. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says differently from Rabbi Yeshua. He says lo bahakosiv lahatir es mutter. You think the Torah is coming to tell us that you are allowed to eat the kosher animal? So if the father is kosher and the mother is kosher, even if the offspring is a bit of a mutant, that's obvious to Rabbi Eliezer that is a kosher animal to eat. Elohosif ala mutter. So this pasuk is adding on something new that is mutter. You might have thought is aser. Ezeh, which one is that? That's tameh hanolad min tahor, something that looks like a tameh animal, and it came out of the kosher animal. Ve'iburo min tameh, but the father was a not kosher animal. Now that's a chiddush. So the Torah has to add this in the pasuk that we wouldn't have thought we could eat something with a tameh father and a kosher mother. So Rabbi Eliezer is saying we could. Maybe it's only if the animal got pregnant from a kosher father. Talmud Lomar, Shita takes out the shore. He says, Se kisavim, se izim. The offspring of sheep, the offspring of goats. Mikol makom. In any event, so Rabbi Eliezer goes after only the mother. He uses matrilineal descent. So Baruch Hashem, he goes after the mother. So even if the father was a non-kosher animal, the offspring of this kosher mother is going to be edible. So Karila Tame, but it says Tame, Rabbi Shimon. So that's like Rabbi Shimon. Veka Amar avalata ochel haba b'siman echad. But he says, but you can eat something that comes with one kosher siman. So Hai Tana Savar Le Kivase Bechada. So this Tana who teaches this brisa, he holds like Rabbi Shimon with one thing, Poligale Bechada, and not by the other thing. So he holds like Rabbi Shimon that you could eat this mutant animal that has one kosher siman, but not that you need rosh of arubo. So even if this animal that has the not kosher father but the kosher mother, and it comes out looking like a mutant, so even if it doesn't have rosh of arubo but it came out of a kosher mother, this Tana would say you could still eat it. And some people have a kasha on this. Mosiv iburim in a tame. They say, wait, you're telling me a kosher animal got pregnant from a not kosher father animal? Mi me'abra, could this even happen? Could a kosher animal become pregnant from a not kosher? Hamar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he was bucky in animals, and he says, Le'olam ein misaberes, it will not get pregnant. Lo tameya min tahor, not a non-kosher animal from a kosher species. V'lo tahora min tame, and not a kosher female animal from a non-kosher animal father. V'lo gasa min daka, and not a large animal, which refers usually to cows and oxen, from a daka, which is sheep and goats. V'lo daka min gasa, and not vice versa. V'lo behema min chaya, and not even a domesticated animal from a wild animal. V'lo chaya min behema, and not a wild animal from domesticated. Chutz mi Rabbi Eliezer u'machlokoseh, except for the case of Rabbi Eliezer and those who argue on him. Rashi points out this is referring to the koi. The koi is this famous animal we had in Chulin Rabosai, and we couldn't decide whether it's a behema or a chaya. The reason we couldn't decide was a machlokis. So Rabbi Eliezer said, well, it's its own thing. It's not really a behema or a chaya. It's its own species. It's a birya bifnei atzma. It's sort of this separate category. And those who argued on Rabbi Eliezer, they said no. What actually happened was it's from a tayash and a tzviya. And the tayish is a domesticated form of goat, some sort of mountain goat, but it is domesticated as a goat. And the tzviya is a steinbock, says Rashi. We translate it usually as a deer. As a tzvi, we usually translate deer, so which is a chaya. So this behema and the chaya, they were able to reproduce and produce the koi. So in that case, it is possible, but Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is teaching us generally it's impossible for the kosher mother to get impregnated by a non-kosher species. Right, so those, when they talk about the koi, they do say that the chaya, the tzviya, is able to get pregnant from behema, from the tayish, from that certain goat. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Di avar mikolut. Rabbi Yirmiyah says she got pregnant from the kolut. Kolut means it does not have split hooves, Rabbi say. So this is an animal without split hooves, but it's a kolut ben para. It's the kolut that came out of a cow. So something came out of a cow that, again, it was similar to a gummel in the sense it didn't have the regular split hooves like a cow, but it was the offspring of a cow. And that animal went and impregnated a regular cow, and now they had a child, and that child is completely kosher, even if it's a bit of a mutant, even though it had a father that looks not kosher. The father was a kolut, it didn't have split hooves. Son of a regular cow, and he impregnated a regular cow, so that is the grandson of that first cow is mutter. Alibud Rabbi Shimon, and according to Rabbi Shimon, Kamar, the Kamar avolata echel ababa siman echad. So he said you could eat something with one siman of kashrus. So that would be this animal. But Rabbi Shimon also holds you need Rosh of Rubo. So a mutant that doesn't have Rosh of Rubo resembling the mother, the head, and the majority of his body, Rabbi say, it wouldn't be eligible according to Rabbi Shimon. So Hai Tana Savar Lekavase Bechada. So he holds like Rabbi Shimon that the one siman is good enough if it came out of the cow. Poligale Bechada, and he disagrees with Rabbi Shimon that you need Rosh of Rubo. So even if it's a bit of a mutant and it doesn't look like a cow anymore, it's still eligible because it came from the cow. The member of Rabbi Eliezer Savar Zev Zegor Mutter. So are you telling me Rabbi Eliezer held just above that you could have a non-kosher animal as the father and a kosher animal as the mother? That was good enough. So does he subscribe to the concept of Zev Zegor Mutter? This and that cause it is allowed. And this is a concept where we have one kosher source and one non-kosher source. And even though the product contains something of the non-kosher source, we still see it's allowed. We saw this Rabbi by the cheese making. If they mixed, we read over this a while ago back in Chulin, where if they mixed in a kosher rennet and a non-kosher rennet, there was a tzad to say zev zegorim, that it was mutter, or maybe not. It's a whole machlokes of poskim. But we saw this if there's a kosher source and a non-kosher source together, perhaps we'll say it's kosher. And Rabbi Yeshua savar zev zegorim aser. Does Rabbi Yeshua say that's aser? So we usually hear the opposite. Ha'ipka shaminan lahu. We've heard the other way around in the context of Vlad Treifa, the offspring of a Treifa. So a Treifa gave birth to an animal. Could we bring it as a carbon? A Treifa can't be a carbon. What about the offspring of a Treifa? And we assume that the mother was normal and the father was the Treifa here. Rabbi Eliezer Omer lo yikar v'legabe mizbeach. You couldn't bring this animal to mizbeach because the father was a treifa and he's given a treifiness to it. Rabbi Yeshua Omer yikar. Rabbi Yeshua says you could bring it because he seems to subscribe to zev zegor mutter, because the mother had no treifa and it was fine, so it should be fine to come up on the mizbeach. He says yikar v'legabe mizbeach. So we the Gemara explains Ba'alma, the first wide line, Savar Rabbi Eliezer zev zegorim aser. Rabbi Eliezer usually holds this and that come together. If there's something not kosher in one of these zez, it's aser. Shaynechacha, but it's different here. De'im can, if it were so that it's aser here, nichsav kra se kesavim ve'izim. But the Torah actually says se kesavim se izim. It says that you really need the se to be like the parent species. So se vise lamali shmamina se mikomakom. So saying se twice, the Torah doesn't waste any ink. So Rabbi Eliezer learns out. So if there's any seh, if it's the seh just has to be the offspring of the mother, even if the father is not kosher, Rabbi Eliezer makes this drasha that it's still good enough, even though by bringing a son of a treifah to his bech, he does not allow zev zegorim. Rabbi Yeshua Amar Lacha be'alma zev zegorim mutter. Rabbi Yeshua usually holds zev zegorim is mutter. If it had a kosher and a non-kosher source, we'll go after the kosher source and say the offspring is mutter. Hacha imken lichtov kra shor. Kesev ve'ez, kesavim ve'izim, lamali. So it could have said in the singular. It could have said just shore, kesev, ez. But instead it says se kesavim ve'izim. It says it in the plural, which seems to imply both parents, Rabbosai, are that same kosher species. Kesavim ve'izim, lamali, shmamina ad shehei aviv keves ve'imo kivsa. So we learn from here that we do not allow intermarriage by sheep. It has to be, according to Rabbi Yeshua, both the mother and the father are sheep. That's why it says, se kesavim ve'izim. It's plural. Tashma Rabbi Shimon Omer, gamol, shnei pa'amim. We have gamol twice, again in Vayikra and in Dvarim. Echad gamol hanolad min a gamol. One is a gamol that came out of Mrs. Gamol. Echad gamol hanolad min a para. One is a camel creature that came out of a cow. V'im rosho v'rubo dome le'imo. But if the head and the majority of this creature resembles the mother, the cow, mutter bechila, you can eat that thing. Shma mina lechila nami by Rabbi Shimon. So we've answered our question. Rosh of rubo shma mina, that Rabbi Shimon requires for eating that the head and the majority of the animal have to have the resemblance to the kosher mother animal, which is the same standard he applies by the Bechor, which is a bit of a higher standard than our Mishnah and the Chamim had stated. Good, 2 dots. Sheyotze min tame tame. Something that comes out of a non-kosher is not kosher. Rabbosai, this shaila is one that you do not get every day. Ba'u minei Rav Sheshes. They asked Rav Sheshes, Mei reglaim shel chamor mahu. Can we drink the urine of a donkey? Now, this is not a shaila that you're going to see why this is. You're going to see why they're asking the shaila. The Gemara is going to explain why are we asking this. Tibailahu. So you could ask desusim gabolim. Why not also ask susim and gabolim? Why are you saying davka a chamor? Why not horses? Why not camels? What are you singling out the donkey for? Desusim and gabolim lo. We're not even going to ask. Lo mi bailahu. We don't have to ask him. De lo achiri. They're not cloudy. So the liquid waste of these animals is not cloudy. Lo dama l'cholov. It doesn't resemble milk in that sense. It's not sort of another color. So it's maya ul, maya nafuk. We consider it that water went in and then water went out. So the halachic assumption would be this liquid waste of the source, the sus and the gamal, the horse and the camel, it has still the halacha of water. What we're going to ask, de chamor. We're going to ask about donkey, the achiri, it's cloudy, v'damu l'cholov, so it resembles the milk, and it would be have the halacha of its milk, that the milk is the excretion of the donkey itself, we saw in yesterday's daf Rabbi, so it would be totally aser. So what's the halacha? Migufe kame matzeh? Was it sort of squeezed out of its goof? So the word mimatzeh is lashon meats. Meats, of course, is juice. So is it juiced out of the animal itself, and it's a secretion like it's milk, v'asiri, and it's aser like it's milk? O dilma maya ul maya napuk. Or maybe water went into the animal and water came out of the animal. Sure, it got a little dirty in the meantime. Hai da'achiri, and now that it's cloudy, chavla de bisrahu. That was the heat or the deterioration, Rashi says, of the meat. It kind of some schmutz got in the water, but it's dirty water, but it still is the halacha of water. So that's the tzad to say it's still water. Amr lehu Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says, Tinitua, you learn in the Mishnah, Shayotze min tame, tame. What comes out of the tame is tame. Hayotze min ha tahor, tahor. So he's reading the Mishnah very carefully. Mi tame lo ka'amar. The Mishnah doesn't say from tame. Ella, turning over, min ha tame. Out of the tame. So it's not just the bodily products of a tame, but it's something that's min hatame. That's something that comes out of that animal. V'hane name, top line in the dayan on the base. Mina de tamehu. This comes out of the non-kosher species. So therefore, the donkey liquid waste is forbidden, just like donkey milk would be. Ika de amre, and some people say, desusim gemalim lo kami bailahu. We didn't ask about the waste of a horse or a camel. We don't have to ask that. Why? You're going to love this, Rabbi. De lo shatu inshi. People don't drink that. Okay. Kikami bailahu. So why are we asking the chamor about the donkey? The shatu inshe. People sometimes drink that. Why? Maluli yurakona. Because it's good as a cure for jaundice. It's a medication for jaundice. So now we need to know because people might drink it for a refuah purpose. Now, Rabbi Sai, we know the halacha is if there's pikuach nefesh, it's a tzad pikuach nefesh, you could even use a medication that's not kosher. Now, where it gets a little more fuzzy is a chole sheyesh bo sakana, someone who's sick, but they're not in danger of losing their life, God forbid, but they are ill, they are bedridden. It's chole sheyesh bo sakana, or a chole she'ein bo sakana. They have a headache, they have symptoms. Now, I'm not poskening, but I'm going to tell you, the poskim are mechalek. If something is eaten, that would definitely, the poskim would be more inclined to say that needs to be something kosher. If something is injected, it's intravenous, they'd be more inclined to be makel, to say, well, it doesn't need to be kosher, and maybe is there an alternative medicine that is kosher, that doesn't necessarily come from a chazir, whatever the non-kosher source is, that we can use, or is this the best medicine for the job? Then the poskim might be inclined to allow it, because this person is chole sheyesh b'sakona, be more inclined to allow it. But for bikuach nefesh, we use even things that are not kosher, because v'chai b'hem v'lo shiyamus b'hem. Good. So this donkey waste was used for people with jaundice, and apparently they were not people in sakana, but they had symptoms, and they were trying to heal these symptoms. So now we need to know. Amar who Rav Sheshes says, learn from our Mishnah, hayotze min ha-tame tame. Things that come out of the tame animal are also tame. V'hayotze min hatar, things come out of the kosher animal are tahor, are kosher. Haneinami mi tame ka'ate, and this liquid waste of the donkey, and also of the other ones, the sus and the gumel, the horse and the camel, also they're coming out of a not kosher. So they would be not kosher. Meisive mipnei ma amru dvash devorim mutter. So why did we say bee honey is mutter? So here is the sugya of honey. Mipnei shamachnisot oso legufan. They put it into their body. Vein mematzot osan legufan. But it's not a secretion. It's not a mitz, a juice of their body. So beautiful. So bee honey is not made by the bees. Rashi explains they collect from the flowers. They're collecting the nectar, drinking it out of the flowers. The flowers are very smart. You understand? Hashem is very smart. Hashem made the flowers that they get pollinated by the bees. They have pollen in the flowers, which is their seed that they need to spread. And so the flowers also produce nectar, and the bees go in and drink the nectar, and they get all this pollen stuck on their legs, and they go to the next flower, and the flowers have spread their pollen that way, and the bees have retrieved their nectar, and everybody is happy. And then we get the honey, and the bees are not so happy, but we're very happy, especially in Rosh Hashanah. Baruch Hashem. Good. So it's not. So the honey is not from their body itself. It's from the flowers. Rashi says from the nectar. Good. Hu de Amar Rabbi Yaakov. He says like Rabbi Yaakov de Amar Duvsha Rachmana Sharya. Duvsha, which is dvash, the Torah has permitted. De Tanya Rabbi Yaakov Omer Ach et ze lo tochelu. Only this you cannot eat. Mikol sheretz ha'of. And then that pasuk goes on to give you the simanim of the kosher grasshoppers. So if you're Yemenites, you might know these simanim, you might be familiar with them. The rest of us usually don't eat grasshoppers, but the Torah gives you the simanim of kosher hagavim, kosher grasshoppers. But before that it says, ach et ze tochelu, only this kind. It has this, ach et ze sounds like a little something extra. Zeata ochel, this you can eat, v'yata ochel sheretz of tameh. And you can't eat the sheretz of tameh. So sheretz of means like an insect, a flying insect. Sheretz of tameh behed yakisiv, but sheretz of tameh it already said you can't eat. So why does it have to say achet ze tochelu mikol sheretz of? Ela sheretz of tameh iata ochel, the flying insects you cannot eat. Avalato ochel ma she'of tameh mashritz, but you can eat what the tameh of, the bee in this case, is expelling, because it's not really its own body. Eze ze dvash devorim. This is the honey of bees. Interestingly, the bees have two sort of pouches. They have one, it's a stomach for digestion, which has digestive enzymes, and the other one where they suck up the nectar, it doesn't digest. Now it has an enzyme in it which actually inverts the molecules that are in the nectar to start forming it into honey. And then when they put it into storage in the beehive, in those little hexagons there, it dries out and crystallizes a bit and actually becomes the honey. So they're not digesting it and they're not eating it. They don't consume it. They just keep it in the pouch until they get back to the hive, and then they regurgitate it into the cells of the hive to dry out and become the honey. So it's exactly what happens. They're not digesting it at all. So this pasuk, he says, is learning it out. Now we could have said, right, what you said yesterday, Eretz Zavat Chalav Dvash. So why don't we say that? Beautiful. Date honey. Shkoyach. Wow. Someone reads the Rashis on Chumash. Beautiful. So good. So over there, that pasuk, Rashi says, that's chol of izim, that's goat milk, and it's date honey. So it's not necessarily the honey from bees. But we have other sources in the Torah that we know they did eat honey from bees. Famously, Yehonasan ben Shaul took bee honey out of a beehive on a fast day and got in trouble for that. So we see that and Shimshon also got bee honey. So we see they were eating bee honey also in Tanakh. Back in the Gemara. So you would think even the honey made from gizin v'tzirin. Now Rashi says these are a kind of hagav, they're a kind of a locust. And we just had a plague of them in Mitzrayim. Tosfos says they're not locusts, they're something else. A tzira is usually some sort of a wasp. So they also make a form of honey. Amrat lo. Mara isa l'rabos devorim lahotzia gizin v'tzirin. So why do we include bee honey and not the honey from gizin and tzirin? Merabe ani dvash devorim. I'm going to include bee honey. She'ein lo shem levai. It doesn't have a name with it. So if you wanted to say, if they were selling honey in the store, according to FDA regulations, it would be honey from bees. Now, what if they wanted to sell wasp honey? It would have to say wasp honey on the container, or the company selling it would get in trouble with the FDA and with the Gemara in Bechoros, because stam honey is bee honey, unless Rashi tells you it's date honey, but stam honey is bee honey, and if they're selling wasp honey, it better say wasp honey on it, and we're not going to buy it because we've been to Daf Yomi and we learned this Gemara. Good. So Rabbi needs Ashvoim she'ein lo shem levai. It doesn't have an accompanying name. Motziani dvash gizim v'tzirin, and I will exclude from kashrus the dvash of gizim v'tzirin sheyesh lo shem levai, because you have to say wasp honey on the jar, Rabbi say. Kiman azla ha detanya. Who does this brisa go like? Dvash gizim v'tzirin tahor, that the honey made by these insects is actually kosher, muter bechila, and is muter to eat. Delok Rabbi Yaakov. That's not like Rabbi Yaakov, who just taught us this source for the honey of the bees being good. Look Rabbi Yaakov. So tahor. So it's tahor. It's not matame. Alma by machshava. So you see, it's a food that requires intention to become a food. We saw by tuma. We saw in chulin. Sometimes a food is not a food until you think it's a food. So if you have little scraps of meat on the hide, we said, so they're not metame, they don't transmit tuma or make tuma, but if you gathered all these scraps of meat together and got it to a kazayas, then that means you're going to eat it, so then it would be metame as in the sense of, not in the sense of kashrus, in the sense of giving over spiritual impurity, of tum'ah. Good, so do we say it requires machshava? You have to think it's a food for it to be a food. Tanya nami hachi, we have a brisa also like this. Dvash bekivarto, dvash in the beehive, is metame tumas ochlin. It is tame like a food, because honey, once it's in the beehive, it's assumed to be a food. It's not just food for us, it's food for the bees as well, Rabbi say. Interestingly, the bees make something else. It's called royal jelly, and that actually comes from the bees themselves. So there is a big machlokis if it's kosher. Star K says not recommended. And some other sources say, well, it's made from the honey, and maybe it's just fermented honey in a way, but it is a different product because they feed this royal jelly, obviously, to the queen, and the queen gets much larger, it lives much longer, because it's really a different thing. It has all sorts of protein and amino acids in it that the regular honey doesn't have. So it's tzorach iyan on royal jelly, but Star K said not recommended, so take a look before you get royal jelly, but there are a lot of other products. The bee pollen, which is pollen mixed with honey, they say that's mutter, because the pollen's from the flowers and the honey's from the, as we just saw, is kosher. So that's just fun. So anyway, the dvash in the beehive is metame tumas ochlin. It's already a food for the bees, food for us. Shelo b'machshava, even without thinking it's a food, it's automatically a food. Good. Choli de yachmorta, but these ball things that come out of the female yachmor. So now we got a big question. I've never seen this in person, but the Gemara has. Chazal have seen this. Savar Rabbanan lemeimar beyeninhu. The Rabbanan said those things coming out of the female yachmor, they might be the male seed organs of the male yachmor. So Rashi says that what might have happened is they became detached during the mating process, and the male left there more than he wanted to, and now the female is expelling his body part, and that would definitely be aser mishum aver minachai. Ve'asiron, they're aser the aver minachai from the male yachmor. Amar Rav Safra knew about this. He says actually they're zora de ayla hu. It's actually the seed itself, the generative male seed of the ayla of the ayal. And so how did the seed from the ayal get in Mrs. Yachmorta? The Azil Batar Ayalta. So the ayal went to Mrs. Ayal. Va'idi de Rachmatzar, and her rechem was too narrow. Lo mizdakaka. She would not get involved with Mr. Ayal. Now really, Rabbi say what's going on, I think what's going on, is we understand that mammals have a cycle. They have a monthly cycle, and during a lot of that cycle, they're not fertile. They're not going to get pregnant, and a lot of the animals are not receptive to mating at that time. And understand they have you see in some species, they have their tail down, and the females are not receptive to mating with the male. In heat, as it's called, then they are receptive. So my assumption is the ayalta is only available davka when she's in heat. So she refused the advances of the ayal. You see from here, Rabbi say, the chokhmah of the Torah, that Hashem knows we are mammals, but we are on a much higher spiritual madrega. We have more neshama, we have more ruchnius than these animals. But even so, to sort of consider our animal nature, Hashem has given us the mitzvah of taharas mishpacha. Hashem has given us a time to be that the husband and wife are separate, and a time that we're back together. And Baruch Hashem. And so it accounts for, we have an animal nature, Rabbi say, and we have an angelic, we have a spiritual nature also. And it's a mitzvah that combines these two things, that we're able to control our animal nature and use these urges, these desires that God gave us for a spiritual service, for a divine service. Baruch Hashem. So that's our Chassidish of art for today. Out of nowhere. Good. So what happens? The Ayal could not mate with Mrs. Ayal because she wasn't in heat. V'azil batar Yachmarta. So he went to Mrs. Yachmarta, ve'natre, and he made a deposit in Mrs. Yachmarta, and Rashi tells us that it was karush there. It turned into a ball shape there. So it was the seed of the Ayal that went into the Yachmarta, and it became a ball there, and then she is depositing these things. They come out the back end of the yachmor, so they are just pirsha. They're not ever menachai, so they would be mutter. No one's going to eat this. But if you need to make it into a medicine or something like this, I assume, then it would be mutter for that. I hope they're not going to eat this. Amar Rav Huna says, or, similar concept, or a ba keneged panav shel chamar mutter, the skin that comes opposite the face of the chamar. We're talking about a chamar when it is a newborn. When it comes out, there could be some of the amniotic sac. They call it a caul, C-A-U-L, and it's the sac around the animal. Sometimes animals are born in the caul, it's called. They have the sac on them when they come out, and then they have to rip it open or cut it open to get the animal out of the sac. So that's mutter. My taima pirsha ba'almahu. It's not a body part of the mother chamor, and it's not a body part of the baby chamor. It is pirsha. It's an amniotic sac. We have a brisa supporting you. Or haba keneged panav shel adam, the skin that's opposite the face of a adam, a human newborn. Bein chai, bein met, tahor. It's tahor. It's not metame. It's not because it's not a body part of the mother or the child. My love, bein hu chai v'imo chaya. Does this mean whether the child and the mother are still alive? Ben hu met v'imo meta, or whether the child is, God forbid, passed away, and the mother also passed away in childbirth, God forbid. Lo ben hu chai v'imo meta, ben hu met v'imo chaya. So if one of them is dead, we might be concerned that they were metame this amniotic sac. V'tanya, but there's a brisa, ben hu chai v'imo chaya, ben hu met v'imo meta. Tanya. So if there's a brisa like this, it doesn't matter if they're alive or not alive, but this amniotic sac, or we'll say it's not the placenta, but it's an amniotic sac. It's a pirsha ba'alma. It's not a body part of either the child or the mother to cause tuma. Great. Mishnah. And this Mishnah is a continuation of our concept, hayotzim and a tame. It's a really great twist on this. Dog tame, shabola dog tahor. A non-kosher fish swallowed a kosher fish. Mutter be'achila, you can eat the kosher fish. So the shark or the dolphin ate kosher fish, and then someone caught the thing and you cut open the belly, you can eat those kosher fish inside. Tahor shabala dog tame, a kosher fish swallowed a not kosher fish, asur be'achila, you can't eat that, lafisha enu gidula, because it's not its offspring, it didn't grow in it. We'll see in the Gemara what we're talking about. Taima de chazina de bola. So our Mishnah said, she bala, that swallowed the other one. So the reasoning is that we see it, chazine de bala, that it swallowed it. Halo chazine, if we didn't see it, de bala, so maybe it should be asr, ame ashrutse ashrit. We might say it's the spawn of the non-kosher fish, because fish lay eggs. The Tosfos at the bottom says both kosher and non-kosher fish lay eggs. But in a non-kosher fish, it's more likely that the eggs will spawn. They'll hatch inside the parent fish and then come out a little bit later. So if you cut open a non-kosher fish and you find these things inside, even if they look like kosher fish, maybe they're not kosher fish at all. Maybe they're the offspring of the non-kosher fish itself. Amazing thing. It's interesting, we say ki chazine. The Gemara is assuming we don't really see fish very often. And we know if we don't see fish, fish are hidden in the water, and fish are also immune to ayin hara. So it says, Yirbu kedogim is a bracha, also to be protected from ayin hara, because God willing, we want to have offspring, but we want them protected like dogim from ayin hara, which is, of course, why fish in aquariums don't live as long as fish in the ocean. You can ask any fish in an aquarium, he'll tell you. Good. So Minola and Tanya, how do we know? Dog tame mashrits. A dog tame spawns its young inside the fish. Dog tahor matil beitim, and a dog tahor lays beitim. Again, the Tosfos at the bottom says they both lay eggs, but the eggs hatch already inside the non-kosher fish. I think except for shark eggs. Shark eggs they come out. They have this really interesting leathery egg. They're really cool. Ihachi ki chazina devala. If so, when we see them that they swallowed, so when we see them swallowed, amrinan hai ikula hai ashrutze ashritz. So even if we saw it swallowed, so if non-kosher fish can have their spawn inside their body, so even if they swallowed a kosher fish, even if we watched them in the aquarium that the non-kosher fish swallowed a kosher fish, why don't we say that the kosher fish was i'akola, it was dissolved, it was digested. V'hai, and this other thing we found inside, ashrutze ashritz, it's the spawn, it's the offspring of the non-kosher fish. Amar Rav Sheshes kegon shematzau derech harei. He found it in the intestines. He found it, in the digestive tract, not in the reproductive area of the fish. Rav Papa Amar kegon shematzau derech beitel blia. If he found it in the throat of the non-kosher fish, that kosher-looking fish would be fine. Rav Nachman Amar kegon shematzau shalom. Nachman says he found it complete, because the offspring, the little fishlets, the little fishlets of the non-kosher fish, they're not fully formed, they're not fully developed. We're finding a fully formed, kosher-looking fish, fins and scales in a non-kosher fish. Good to go. Rav Ashi Amar, Rov Dagim b'minon mashritzin. Rov Dagim, when they give birth, their offspring look like them. Ukamisha bala lifanenu dami. So finding a kosher-looking fish inside of a non-kosher fish, you understand, you cut open a shark and you find all these little fish with fins and scales. Rabbi say that's not baby sharks. That's actually kosher fish. The Tosfos says we're going to paskin like Rav Ashi here, that finding a kosher-looking fish inside of a dog tame, that is good to go, and it's delicious. He doesn't say delicious, but he says that's kosher. Taner Banan, finishing up, we're going to bring a brisa. We're not going to be able to finish this brisa, but it's very interesting, so we're going to get a little bit start on this. Dog tame mashritz. A dog tame spawns the young inside the fish. Dog tahor metil beitzim, and the dog tahor lays the beitzim. The beitzim go outside of the animal. Kol hamolid, and anything that gives birth live. Molid is the same shorish lashon yeled, which is Baruch Hashem we have, is menik, nurses the young. The kol hamatil beitzim, anything that lays eggs, miloket, things that lay eggs, they gather food outside for the young. We know birds, they lay eggs and then they gather food, they bring it back for their young. Penguins, the same thing. Chutz mi atalef, except for the atalef. Atalef is usually translated as the bat. Rashi says it's a rat with wings. She'afal pi shemetil beitzim, even though bats lay eggs, I don't know if not many bats, menik. So they also nurse. We're going to read the first line on Ches, because it's amazing. But I say we're in the middle of the brisa. We have a few minutes. It's amazing. It's just so amazing. I know we're probably going to see it again tomorrow, but it's amazing. Good. Top of Ches. Hadolfinin. Okay. I'm not going to translate that. Parin v'ravin kivnei adam. They give birth, they give live birth like people. My dolphinin, what are dolphinin? Amar Rav Yehuda, bnei yama, the children of the sea. This sounds very innocent until you look at the top Rashi. Rashi says, Hey Gimel, hachi garsinan. This is the girsa I had. Hadolphinin, parin v'ravin. The dolphins reproduce mi bnei adam. He didn't say ki bnei adam, it says mi bnei adam. Oh my. So he says they can reproduce with human beings. She'im ba adam alehem. If a person has relations with this dolphin, mis abros, they could become pregnant hemeno from the man. Now, the next Rashi, bnei yama. What is a bnei yama? Dagim yesh bayam. Here it is, Rabbi Sai. Shechetzion tsuris adam. They are half people. Vechetzion tsuris dog. And they are half fish. The laws in an old French, shrina, sirens. Sirens is French for mermaids. So here is the makor for mermaids in Shas. This is amazing. Right. So it's not so simple. So listen, the girsa in front of us is kibnei adam. So kibnei adam, you can leave it at that. Rashi had a different girsa. I don't know how Rashi got his girsa, but it implies that there are mermaids. Mermaids were real, and they could intermarry with people, which is truly an amazing thing. But Baruch Hashem, we've learned about kosher milk, non-kosher milk, we've learned about eggs, we've learned about honey, and now we've even learned about fish. There is an issue sometimes fish will swallow worms, and there could be worms inside the fish. So they do look inside. Certain species of fish have these liver worms, have these stomach worms that can spread throughout the fish. So that is obviously not kosher, and you'd have to check that fish for worms. But if you cut open a dolphin or shark and you find kosher fish, that is kosher, and we've even learned about mermaids. Thank you, Rabbi.